Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host, Mitch. Glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today we've got an episode of Spare Change. The topics on these episodes can vary pretty widely, so stay tuned to see what's in store for this one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. And while you're at it, subscribe and review our podcast as well. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to take you through some black cards that break the color pie. Now, I've already touched on some of the other colors, so go ahead and check those episodes out. Well, watch this episode first, then check those episodes out, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm going to go through some black cards that break the color pie today, and we're going to start things off with Darkness. Darkness is an instant for a black and says, prevent all combat damage to be dealt this turn. So this is essentially a fog in mono black, and yeah, that's not something used that black really does. Typically when you see fog spells, you see those in either white or in green. Specifically in green is where fog originally came from, actually. So yeah, this actually is kind of an interesting and unique card that actually can really throw your opponents off because, if someone's swinging all out at you and they expect to be able to take you out kind of with one shot, in combat, and you're playing a mono black deck, usually you don't kind of have any kind of way to prevent that from happening. But you're like, yeah, let's just say fog, essentially, no combat damage this turn. And yeah, that can really kind of turn the game on its head, now that person's wide open and whatnot. It's something that, it's not an overly powerful card, the fact that, this breaks the color pie, but it's just kind of a fun one that, allows black to do something that, it typically can't do in Magic. Next up, let's move on to another pretty old card with Gate to Phyrexia. This one's an enchantment for black and says sacrifice a creature to destroy a target artifact, activates ability only during your upkeep and only once each turn. So this is repeatable artifact destruction in black. Now, black typically doesn't have any ways to really deal with artifacts or enchantments. It's kind of like the one weakness. Black is very good at dealing with creatures and hands and, getting rid of graveyards and whatnot. Maybe even searching through libraries and getting rid of cards that way. But when it comes to actually dealing with artifacts and enchantments that are on the board, there really aren't ways to do that. And so yeah, artifact removal, repeatable artifact removal in black, this card is huge. But obviously, it's actually a pretty expensive card, I believe. I'm looking at it right now, it's like $38. But yeah, repeatable artifact destruction, sacrificing a creature that is a black thing, being able to sacrifice a creature kind of for a benefit. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, again, like a way to actually get rid of artifacts, that is something that is very unique to this card and something you typically don't see. So definitely a color pie break in my opinion. Colors that can deal with artifacts, I think pretty much anything except for blue, really. Green, red, white all have ways to kind of destroy artifacts or whatnot, or exile artifacts. But yeah, blue can bounce them, I guess. But black typically, again, doesn't see kind of any artifact or enchantment removal, but this is one of them. Next up, we've got Coastgun Falls, and this is another old card, so I'm going to get the Oracle text. It is a world enchantment, because that's the thing, that costs 2 black. It says, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Coastgun Falls unless you tap an untapped creature you control. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So this card sounds extremely familiar if you just read that second part, and that's like a ghostly prison, essentially the exact same thing, basically. I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, so a ghostly prison in black, again, like, when it comes to preventing your opponents from attacking you, that's pretty much very much a white thing. It's not, something you typically see, and, there are, I guess, in blue, you see it a little bit, but in other colors, really, you don't see kind of any kind of a ghostly prison type effect. So yeah, it being in black is a pretty interesting thing. And then being able to, you do have kind of this, requirement to keep it on the field. You have to tap an untapped creature you control at your upkeep, or you sacrifice it. So there is a cost to keep it around. But still, yeah, being able to kind of pillow fort up, with a card in a mono black deck is something you typically don't see. You maybe have, more punishing effects. If someone swings at you, they might lose life. That's kind of like an attack deterrent. But when it comes to actually kind of taxing someone for attacking you, that's not something you typically see in a mono black deck. So this could definitely be an interesting card to throw in. Next up, we've got Paralyzed. Paralyzed is an aura That says enchant creature and it costs a black. When it enters the battlefield, you tap enchanted creature. And the enchanted creature does it untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, that player may pay 4 if they do untap the creature. So basically, this is kind of a, it's a paralyzed effect, I guess. That kind of makes, the word makes sense. But basically, yeah, this is kind of like a very much a blue card, in my opinion. You know, tapping down a creature and not allowing it to untap. I mean, maybe with a tax effect, I think there are some white cards that do that as well. But this is definitely not something you see in a black card. You know, again, blue cards are typically what you see when it comes to kind of controlling creatures, tapping them down, not allowing them to untap. So this is something that could, it's not, you know, an overly powerful card, but it is kind of funny, you know, something you might not see. And for only a black mana, that's not, you know, that's a pretty kind of cheap way to kind of get rid of one creature, essentially. You know, that creature paying 4 is a lot of mana to have to untap, so... yeah, that could definitely shut a creature down. Next up, a card that sees a decent amount of play, actually, and can kind of be one of those, like, gotcha cards, is going to be Mischief. It's an instant that costs 1 and a black, says change the target of target spell with a single target. You lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So, in mono black, when it comes to, like, countering spells, and we'll get to that a little later, or, you know, changing the target of a spell, you don't really have kind of access to that. And Imps Mischief is definitely kind of like a mischievous card. You know, it can definitely throw someone off. This is something you typically more so see in either red or in blue when it comes to changing the target of a spell with another target or whatnot. Imps Mischief actually is a fantastic way to counter a counter spell in black. If someone, you know, you cast a spell, they go to counter that spell, and then you cast Imps Mischief, and you can change the target of that counter spell to Imps Mischief. So it just basically, you know, both of those spells kind of just like, you know, cancel each other out essentially, and then your spell goes through. You are going to lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost, but if you're in a mono black deck, you're typically able to, you know, you got life gain synergies or whatnot. And again, in Commander, life is a resource that you should be using and utilizing, and this is a fantastic card to kind of, you know, take your opponents out of nowhere and be like, oh yeah, this is what's happening now. Dash Hopes is another one, again, kind of along the same lines-ish. It's an instant for black. It says when you play Dash Hopes, any player may pay 5 life. If that player does counter Dash Hopes, counter target spell. So this one's just a straight up counter spell. I mean, counter spell itself is what, blue. This is just black. And it just counters target spell, but there is that kind of, you know, any player can pay 5 life, and you know, that definitely can happen. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, there is a trade-off. 5 life's a decent chunk of life. I know I just said in the last card, you know, like, use your life as a resource, and that's definitely true. But yeah, 5 life is a lot for, you know, any player just to pay to counter this, you know, if it's a game-changing kind of play. Obviously, someone might pay it. I'm not saying it's an overly powerful card. I'm just saying it's kind of, you know, they're one of those, like, you know, gotcha cards. Like, hey, like, there is a decision that needs to be made. You know, you typically don't see a counter spell in a mono black deck. So, again, that can really kind of throw someone off and, you know, take them by surprise. But, yeah, this next one is kind of also breaking the color pie. I guess I should have mentioned this on the last one. It definitely is a blue spell, you know, countering a spell. But, you know, kind of adding that in, you know, the life loss kind of aspect to it kind of, you know, is a justification, I guess, for breaking the color pie in that way. And so Temporal Extortion is kind of another example of this. It costs black. It says when you cast it, any player may pay half their life rounded up. If that player does counter it, take an extra turn after this one. So yeah, extra turn spells are definitely a blue effect. Definitely a blue kind of spell. And yeah, being able to, you know, say, okay, yeah, 1 extra turn for 4 mana is a fantastic amount. But yeah, a player can pay half their life. That's a huge price to pay most of the time. I mean, if everyone's at, you know, 40 life, you're going to be hard-pressed to see one player being like, yeah, I'll just give up half my life, you know, for this player not to take an extra turn. So, yeah, it can be definitely a very kind of, you know, not political card because, you know, but it can cause some strife among opponents, you know, for like, oh, you take it. No, you take it. No, you take it. You've got more life than me. You take, you know, the hit so they don't get extra turn. But, yeah, I mean, I guess if someone's at a much lower life total and might be losing the game already, they might be more incentivized to take it. You know, if you're going from 10 to 5, that's not that big of a jump, I guess, compared to 40 to 20. But yeah, definitely getting in the danger zone there. But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting kind of card again. You know, this, I guess the justification of breaking the color pie is, well, we added life loss to it, so therefore, you know, it's okay. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting card. Again, counter spells and extra turn, you know, spells. Who knew, you know, could be in a black card. So the next one is kind of it's a funny one that I've actually brought up on a couple of different episodes. It's a pretty unique card. It's an older card and one that kind of, well, you'll see here. Okay, so Uncle Isvan is a 1/3 human that costs 1 black. It says prevent all damage to be dealt to Uncle's Fun by creatures. Now, this isn't a, a broken, kind of mechanic or whatnot or thing that, that it breaks the color pie, yes, because I think that's something you more so see on a white creature. But yeah, breaking the color pie in, the way of, hey, this can just be an all-time blocker that, just sits out there and just says, yeah, okay, swing at me. Oh, yeah, Uncle is Fun will block. Nothing happens to Uncle is Fun. It probably won't kill anything because it's only got 1 power, but, it's just a great blocker. Obviously, not all that powerful in Commander, and I think I brought up before that, Uncle is Fun should probably be a legendary creature because, how many Uncle is Funs do you know? But yeah. Yeah, definitely a color pie break there. Next up is Words of Binding. It's a source that costs X black, and it says tap X target creatures. So yeah, tapping down creatures is something you typically see in blue or white most of the time. Just straight up being able to tap down creatures in black. I mean, obviously, again, all these, color pie breaks, some of them are more powerful than others. Tapping down creatures, this can help, when it comes to getting your creatures through and whatnot. It's typically probably not something you'll see in many decks, but, it's something that can, kind of take your opponents by surprise. You're not going to typically see this kind of effect in a mono black deck. But now let's move on to the final one, and one that I think definitely breaks the color pie, and that's going to be Core Dirge. It's an instant that costs 2 and a black, and says all damage will be dealt this turn to target creature you control by a source of your choice is dealt to another target creature instead. So this one is kind of like damage redirection, which is definitely something you more see as a white effect. Basically kind of saying, okay, the damage doesn't go here, it goes there. Now, in those effects, kind of typically it's more so like damage to be dealt to you is dealt to this creature instead. So kind of like swapping what damage is dealt to creatures. This is kind of it's an interesting card. It's kind of like it's an effect where you say, okay, you swing, on a block, with one of my creatures. I'm going to take that damage and I'm going to deal it to your creature instead. So it's kind of like a punishing effect. It's saying like, it turns kind of it flips the script, it's going to deal that damage that way. Redirecting damage, again, isn't something you typically see in a mono black deck or on a black card. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Again, the power level of kind of all these cards definitely differs. There's some more powerful than others, but I think it's just kind of interesting to see, cards that break the color pie in interesting and unique ways. But yeah, this is my list for black cards to break the color pie. I'd love to hear from you, so let me know in the comments below, what your favorite color pie break card is. Is it one of these? Is it one that I didn't mention? I'm sure I failed to mention some great ones out there, I'm sure. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks again, and have a good one. And make sure you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help make this show possible. I truly couldn't do any of this without your support. If you want to support this channel directly, consider becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There are even tiers where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. You can check out all the Patreon tiers and rewards at patreon.com/commandersquarters. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget Commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again, and have a good one.